Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Anglo Election Insights, where I just wanted to briefly respond to some new polling out of South Australia and show you guys my updated map of the state with, I think, just under 6 months to go before the next state election there. So, you have been polling a few states recently, throwing up some somewhat surprising results, somewhat expected results as well. This one from South Australia more or less confirmed the trend from the YouGov poll, which was a bit of a shocker at the time, which showed Labor with a 17% two-party preferred lead. Democracy has it as 16% with a big primary vote for Labor, just under a majority there on 47%, and huge personal ratings for Peter Malinowskis as well, 58%. So a majority of people preferring him as Premier. And, you know, these measures do favour the incumbents, but that's a big result. And if you have a look a little bit further down, there's upper house results as well. But yeah, if you go through this poll a little bit more, it's the approvals. So the net positive of 35%, that's almost unheard of for a political leader. So extremely popular. Vincent Tarzia, most people don't, like a majority of people don't have an opinion, but those that do don't seem to really like him. It doesn't surprise me. I think there would be a lot of Liberal voters who perhaps aren't all that satisfied with his more kind of moderate approach and his inability to cut through. So I think when I did my first update using the potential pendulum, I was a little bit slow and a little bit hesitant to give away a whole bunch of seats. I didn't want to put all my stock in that YouGov poll, but now I think the trend has been confirmed and we can go ahead and pretty much wipe the map clean of Liberal seats. At the moment here, I've got them on 5, Independents on 4, and Labor sweeping 38 seats here, including every Metropolitan Adelaide seat. So I'm just going to go around the map and just discuss a few of them in detail. But for the most part, it's pretty cut and dry. Labor are going to win a whole bunch of seats. So let's start with the regionals first. The seat of Flinders, this was an empty seat going into 2022. The Liberal just hang on against an independent who subsequently ran federally for the seat of Grey. I can't find any indication that she's going to run again. And if not, this seat is still very comfortably a Liberal seat on a two-party preferred measure, and I suspect that the swing will be on a little bit more in Metropolitan Adelaide than it would in the regions. So I'm pretty happy at this stage to give that one to the Liberals here. And now, sometimes the seat names, I don't know the South Australian map. I think this one's called Giles. Anyway, that's a safe Labor seat and will stay so. Here, Jeff Brock appears to be running again, stood down from the ministry, but running again, very popular. Don't expect him to have any troubles there. Independents also winning here, and I've got Finnis as an independent gain. It does look like the same independent will run again. I actually think it could be a bit of a drama with Labor also probably likely to do quite well down at the kind of Fleurieu Peninsula, Victor Harbour area. Last time, Labor preferences almost got the independent elected. This time, I could foresee a situation where it becomes like a 3-horse race and the Liberals, Labor and the independent all end up with somewhere around 30%. And that could mean, I think either way, the independent probably wins off the back of either major party's preferences. But if they get knocked out of the race by Labor overperforming and the Liberals not collapsing enough, then it becomes a little bit more interesting. For me, I think at this stage, I would say the independent's got a good chance here. Looks like the independent is campaigning a little bit more on algae bloom issues, and seems to be distancing herself a little bit from Labor, really trying to tap into that sort of community advocacy that you often see from independent candidates. So I'll give I'll give that one to the independent for now. And in Cavell, that incumbent independent is retiring, but it's a very independent-minded area, sort of around Mount Barker in the Adelaide Hills. He was extremely popular and he's endorsed a successor. The Liberal vote was down at like 20% last election. It could be the case that the Liberals actually drop out of the two candidate preferred this time, as they did federally in Mayo. As for some of these other rurals, I think this seat here has a new name. Used to be called Frome. I don't think the Liberals are going to be able to hang on there, even though I expect the swing not to be as great, sort of around the northern Barossa and up into these regional areas. Then we have a couple of interesting seats here. Mount Gambier, which Troy Bell, the former Liberal turned independent, is off to prison, I believe. And they won't be holding a by-election. A couple of other independents have entered the race, including one who I think is pretty well known in the community. Mount Gambier does have a history of being represented by independents, but at this stage I would probably say the Liberals are favourites. I don't think Labor has any real chance of winning this seat. I just think their vote's a bit too low. And again, it's that sort of rural city divide that probably isn't working in their favour. McKillop is another one. So the sitting MP was a Liberal, now turned independent, and they have like violent assault charges hanging over them. Sometimes it's unbelievable how much baggage independents can take on in terms of these legal issues before their communities turn on them. So I definitely wouldn't rule him out, but they are pretty bad accusations of like beating his wife and stuff. Pretty nasty. I expect the Liberals to run pretty hard against him. And at this stage, I would put the Liberals as favourites to win that seat. But, you know, we saw with Gareth Ward, we've seen with other independents, they can survive a lot just by being a well-known and trusted figure in their community. The seats of Schubert and Chaffey, I expect them to hang on as well. So that's the Liberals' 5 seats, and then it's basically Labor running the table. So all across Northern Adelaide, the federal swing wasn't as great to Labor as it was in some of these more central and southern suburbs, but still well and truly safe Labor seats that will remain that way. The ones that are of interest, I've got Hartley here, so that's Vincent Tarzia's seat. I expect that the Liberals will do a lot of sandbagging there, and this was the seat that Nick Xenophon ran in back in 2018, and it was a surprise to a lot of people, I think, that the Liberals actually hung on, and he's seen as a pretty effective local member, but you know, the tide is going to be so strong against the Liberals this time. I don't think he's going to be able to hang on. Similar story in Dunstan, which used to be the former Premier's seat, Stephen Marshall. The by-election a year ago was actually a pretty close result, but since then I would say Labor's fortunes have only increased. So I expect that to be a more comfortable win for Labor there with their incumbent. The seat of Waite as well, which is being contested by that guy from SA Best, who's I would say he's increased his profile relatively well over the course of the last term. Although he had that whole thing where he was like using AI for some report about the algae bloom. Anyway, not a great look. I don't like, that's already a Labor held seat, so I don't expect them to be able to overturn that, but it could be one where the Liberals do surprisingly well. We'll see. And the seat of most interest, I think, is the seat of Bragg, which is currently held, well, it was an 8.2% margin at the 2022 election, and then there was a by-election because the MP retired. So now it's held on like 5.5. And this is just an example of one of those seats that the Liberals are just doing so poorly in. A lot of professionals. You've got high income, high rates of high ownership, but also a reasonably high proportion of Chinese Australians. So a lot of demographics where the trends are turning sharply against the Liberals, and I just can't see them holding on if we're looking at a double-digit swing, which is probably going to be even more pronounced within Metropolitan Adelaide. So there you have it, guys. I mean, it's a pretty simple game. The Liberals hoping to win back a couple of rural seats from independents and hang on to as much of the silverware as possible, but I mean, I think it's just looking really bad at this stage. Labor, they'll sweep all of Metropolitan Adelaide, a couple of other regional seats as well, including Hammond, which I didn't really touch on. That's held on only 5.1%. But I just don't think many of those seats, anything that's not bolted down with a double-digit margin out in the regions is very vulnerable if we're looking at a result that is so lopsided as what the polling is currently predicting. So thanks for having a watch, guys. I'll be back with more videos for the rest of November. Of course, we've got those US elections, the gubernatorial elections in Virginia and New Jersey, and the New York City mayoral race. So I'll probably maybe do like a final prediction or something for them. Looks like the polling's getting really tight in New Jersey. So a couple of interesting races. But thanks for watching this video. Please like the video if it was any good. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you're enjoying my content. And leave your comments below, particularly if you're an Adelaide local and maybe you've got some news from the front, or maybe some local issues that maybe I'm overlooking. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, guys. See you in the next video.